Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 3 of the Island Finance Forum. Thank you so much for joining this session. My name is Christian Sakino. I am the Chief of Staff and Technology Lead at Island Innovation. I am based on Margarita Island off the coast of Venezuela in the Caribbean region, and I am very happy to be presenting this session, which is titled A Quantitative Framework for Doubling the Energy Efficiency by 2030 on Small Island States. Before we begin, you should see a poll appearing on your screen right away, where you can let us know where you're connecting from, what region, what is the sector that you belong to, and your industry. So please feel free to answer the poll. The United Nations have an ambitious goal to double energy efficiency by 2030. What does this actually mean for small island nations, mainly dependent on tourism? Such an ambitious tasks require investing in projects to measure energy efficiency on the island level within sectors, in hotels, restaurants, and taking actions based on quantitative data. This panel features experts who will show you case studies, tools, and systems on how energy efficiency can be measured on the island level, down to sector and individual hotels and restaurants, and how energy efficiency projects help small island nations move towards this goal. These Caribbean case studies are valuable for all small island nations around the globe. I invite you to use the chat function to introduce yourself and let us know which part of the world you are joining from. Please also make any comments during the session, but if you have any questions, make sure to use the Q&A function on the bottom left of your Zoom window to add any questions that you may have for the panel. We will do our best to make sure that we can address as many as possible. All right, so I'm seeing here the results of the poll. We have the majority of people connecting from the Caribbean and North America, and followed closely by Europe. We have a lot of people from Africa, Asia, and the Pacific, and I appreciate you staying up so late at this hour. And the sector, we have the vast majority, 64% from the private sector, followed closely by NGOs, 17%, academia, and others. And the industry, it varies quite a lot. We have people from the energy sector, environmental services, ocean conservation, finance, consulting, politics, and tourism. Thank you so much for your participation. I would like to introduce our moderator today, Clifton Wall, founder and managing partner of Infinitum BB. Please turn your camera to join me on screen. And I want to thank you all again for being a part of this year's Island Finance Forum. I will hand over to you, Clifton. Clifton, you're muted.
Yes. Good morning. Today we have 3 speakers with a rich and impressive background who will share with us very interesting content that will certainly contribute on a general or macro level to energy efficiency and sustainable development. This information to be shared during this session will undoubtedly also contribute to energy efficiency towards individual companies operating within the small islands development states. So a warm welcome to our speakers and to all our registered guests. Our speakers of today are Rooney Calmera, Loreto Duffy, and also Daniel Davalos. Before I introduce our first speaker of today, I'd like to inform you that participants that we kindly request you to identify yourself, as has been asked, also your country that you have already filled in. And before we close this session later on, just before 11, there is a Forum Energy Efficiency Island Finance Forum in which you can fill your name, email, or other forms of contacts. Our speakers will be thrilled to share and support you in any kind of energy efficiency. Now I would like to introduce our first speaker, Rooney Calmera. Rooney?
Yes, let me start my video. Yes, okay. Share my screen. Yes. Okay, my name is Rooney Calmera, and I would like to start first with the energy efficiency at a national level, because there are two main databases that you need to create energy intensity. There is an energy balance, and there is an economic framework of indicators. And you need both to be able to create energy intensity indicators at a national level and to join the discussion. Key for small island nations is to invest in both of these tools so that they can create policies and have foreign and private investors also need this information. I would like to show you an energy balance. This is an energy balance of Trinidad and Tobago. This is how it looks like. You can get the fuels on the horizontal level. You see oil products, natural gas, biofuels, etc. And on the columns, you will see the energy import, export, and you see the transformation, and you will see the industries. If we go more detailed, you see here production, exports, etc. And you see the oil products. You see the transformation. And you see here, this final part is the final consumption. So you see industry.
Rooney?
Yes?
Permit me to interrupt. We are not able to see your screens, your sheets.
Rooney, I'm going to stop you sharing. If you could just
Yes.
try again.
Yes.
I think it was an issue with the Zoom.
Stop sharing.
Yeah, you can go ahead and try and share again.
Okay, let me see. Before. Okay, I'm not able to get to the presentation. Yes, there is Zoom. Okay, let me share again. Share my screen. Yes.
Yes. Now you can. Full screen.
Let me see this full screen. Okay, wait. Presentation open. Yes. You see the presentation?
Yes. Yes, the full screen, right? Full screen.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
So here you see, yes. So here you see
Thank you, Rooney.
the presentation, and here you see the Trinidad and Tobago. Here you see the transformation, and here you see the domestic final production. Now I would like to, let me see, stop my share. And now I need to share my spreadsheet again. Yes. So do you see my screen?
It's loading at this moment.
Rooney, if you're using multiple screens, you need to double check, because sometimes when you try to share another screen, we see it blank, like right now, for example.
Okay, do you see my screen right now?
No.
Yes, I would like to suggest, Rooney, for you to present the former sheets, so we
Yes.
can follow you better. So it might be a small repetition, but it's better for us to follow your overall presentation. So if you would mind, if you don't mind, start over again.
Okay.
the sheets you had about Trinidad and Tobago as an example.
Yes.
We can see
So
it, yeah.
now you see the what do you
Yes.
see here? The screen of
macro model.
Yes, the macro model.
Mhm.
Okay. So what you see with the macro model is you see here the indicators, right? You see the tourism sector. Do you see that one?
Yes.
And
Yes,
then
sure.
yes, and then we see the energy sector. So you will see the energy intensity. Do you see that one? The
Yes.
dashboard. Okay. So what you see here is what you can do is you have all these energy intensity in indicators. And I just want to do a small simulation. And the simulation is that once you, if you want, for instance, you are here and you say we want to increase the number of stayover tourists, what you would do is you increase the number of stayover tourists, for instance, to let's say 200,000. Yes. So imagine we have the number of stayover tourists here, and we want to increase that with 200,000. And the reason we want to do that is because we want to have 1 million tourists for Curacao. So what does this mean? This small scenario, what does this mean for the energy intensity? So what you see here is you see that the energy intensity that was before the blue line, the brown line, it has decreased. So why is this important? This is important because the energy intensity is a combination of energy divided by the total value added in the economy. So while the economy has grown, the energy has also grown, the energy demand, because we have more tourists, but the energy intensity has decreased. So this tool, this economic framework, and also the energy framework coupled to it, this tool can be created for all small islands. I have created this model, this economic model for islands in the Caribbean, islands in Jamaica, Trinidad and Jamaica, St. Kitts and Nevis, Curacao, St. Martin, etc. And what you see, what I would recommend, islands is to have their economic framework, their data, and also use energy balances and get energy balances for their specific economy. The last point I wanna show is there is you can have the definition of energy, and in the definition of energy, there is an annual energy report that is being created. And here you see the definitions of energy intensity, which is at the national level. And this can also be calculated on the sectoral level. My colleagues will be going through that. So, okay, I would like now to stop the presentation. Clifton, can you take over?
Yes, thank you, Rooney, for the presentation. We now go over to our second speaker, which is Loretta Duffy, who is also very experienced in doing research about energy and energy consumption in the Caribbean area. Loretta?
Let me see if I can share the presentation of Loreto. Escape. Oh, Patricia. Yes, Loreto.
Good morning,
Loreto.
everybody. Good afternoon, good evening. Greetings from Barbados. Can you share my screen there?
I
please?
see. Do you see the screen?
No.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Loreto has been doing some very interesting research, especially in hotels in the Caribbean area, in terms of energy consumption.
Mhm.
And she would next like to share with us some of that experience and outcomes of those researches
Do
done
you see the
in
screen?
especially.
Do you see
No.
the screen?
Not
Not yet.
yet. Unfortunately, I'm technologically challenged today. My laptop just decided to go into rehab without permission. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to just wing it today. So while we're waiting for the screen to come up, what I will be talking about is the results of, there we are. The results of some studies that we have done in the region, mainly the CHENACT project and the CCOOL project. The CHENACT was a project funded in the main by the Inter-American Development Bank, and it did studies in hotels throughout the region, but the pilot project was done in Barbados, and the advanced project was done in Barbados, Bahamas, and Jamaica. And what we looked at was new technologies which the hotels were introduced to. Like previously, the hotels had been mainly conserving energy, but they were introduced to some new energy efficiency technologies, such as, the new types of lighting. At that point, it would have been, the LEDs were just coming in. And we were looking at inverter type air conditioning units, energy efficiency equipment in kitchens and in guest rooms, etc., as well as some renewables, such as, the PV systems, etc., for hotels. We also looked at different ways of funding, which was like performance contracting using escrows, etc. We found that there is considerable variation throughout the region. This is not a homogeneous region, and hotels are not homogeneous entities neither. So we did find that, particularly in the small hotels, which was less than 50 rooms, there was considerable variations in them. Air conditioning and lighting together made up as well as refrigeration, made up almost 2/3 of the electricity usage in hotels. And we found that there was a potential, an average potential of about 20 to 30% possible reduction, and savings could vary on the studies that we did. The savings varied from anything from about $280,000 up to about $1 million over a 7-year period for small hotels. And that was ranging between anything between 200 or 50 and up to 200. Next screen, please. Next screen there, Rooney, please. The next program was the Caribbean Cooling Initiative, and that was a UN project which attempted to help the governments in 5 countries in the region, which was Bahamas, Jamaica, Barbados, St. Lucia, and Dominican Republic, to transition to more energy efficient equipment, because it was recognized that the standards in the islands in the Caribbean were below those of the major manufacturers, which is China, Mexico, Japan, and their standards of 2010. So the recommendation was that we increase our standards on the equipment that we are importing into the region, as well as looking at the refrigerants, which are powering this equipment. A lot of the refrigerants that were currently being used in the air conditioners and refrigerators, we recognize, while they solved the ozone depletion problem, actually were creating global warming. So that is also the other recommendations that were made, that they be phased out. Rooney, can you change my slides, please? I need to go to the next slide. Anyway, I'll continue to talk. The electricity consumption in Caribbean hotels can be broken down here. Can you go back a little? That pie chart you were seeing, yes, it shows that across the board, there's no doubt that at least 50% of the electricity is going on air conditioning. Lighting accounts for about another 10% and refrigeration for another 11%. So that's what makes up the nearly 2/3, as we were saying, or over 2/3 of the of where the electricity was being used. And the savings that we found. We went from potential 10% savings and we went right up to 62% in one hotel in the Bahamas. Yes, go ahead. You can change that now. Yes, now this is where we show the differences between the three countries. And this is quite an interesting study. If you will see that in Barbados, 32 kilowatt hours per guest night. Now, how we calculate this guest night figure is that we take, for example, if the hotel has 100 rooms, some rooms might have 4 people in them, some might have 2 each night. So we calculate the number of guests in the hotel every night for a month. So in some cases, that'll be 30, some 31. And then we divide that into the kilowatt hours for the whole month. And we get this figure of an average of 32 kilowatts. Now, in the case of Jamaica, it was 50 kilowatt hours per guest night. And in Bahamas, right up at 81, which is considerably higher. So what the question is, why is there such a difference in energy usage in hotels in the different countries? If you go to the next slide, please. First of all, we recognize that the clientele is different. Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean tend to have more tourists coming from UK and Europe and other Caribbean. Whereas in Bahamas and Jamaica, the Northern Caribbean countries tend to have a much greater North American clientele. And those of us who work in hotels would know straight away, North Americans like to have their rooms at Alaskan temperatures. They will automatically change the temperature, which is usually set at about 23 degrees. They will put it down to about 15. Whereas those clientele from Europe and other Caribbean tend not to even use the air conditioning. And if they do, they're quite happy with 23 degrees. We also found that the building design varies considerably. In the Eastern Caribbean, we tend to have open lobbies, open corridors. There is much more natural air coming through. Whereas in the Northern Caribbean, they tend to have enclosed lobbies, they tend to have enclosed corridors. And it has to do with both temperature variability, because in the Bahamas, it actually gets cold and they have to switch to heat. But there's also a security question, right? So we also found that in Barbados, there's considerably higher usage of solar hot water heating and natural gas for cooking, whereas the other islands, it all tended to be just pure electricity. And in phase 2, we recognized that the Barbadian hotels had already been through phase 1 and they had adopted some of the recommended energy efficiency recommendations that we made. Okay, next slide. I'm going to briefly run through 3 different size hotels and showing the potential energy savings that we that we recommended to be implemented. The one thread through them all is that you will see that there are a lot of free things that could be done. In other words, we found that every hotel we went into, there was underutilized fridges, there was hot water heaters that were left to run. But if you can see in this particular case here, this small hotel, we made recommendations that cost very little, and actually they made considerable savings out of them. Go ahead on to the next one. That particular hotel had potential energy savings of up to 60%. In this second slide here that I'm looking at, again, you can see the amount of free things that we recommend. Underutilized refrigerators, pumps running unnecessarily, lights that were left on unnecessarily. In this particular case, the hotel mini mart was attached to the same switch as the offices. So the offices, like their lights, were left on all night because the mini mart was in operation. It was just a question of spending $2 and changing the switch. And look what it saved, in the region of $1,800. So this hotel here, with an investment of $9,000, actually made savings of $117,000 over the course of the year. Absolutely amazing figures. Okay, we'll go to the next one. This one is a large hotel by Eastern Caribbean standards. And again, the same thing, underutilized fridges, lights on unnecessarily. We recommended lamp changes. We recommended some controllers for the our new air conditioning units. But the big one, obviously, and it really only applies to a very large hotel where you can invest in combined heat and power. But again, an investment of $3 million, net savings annually of $750,000, and payback was just under 4 years, which is what hotels absolutely love. So basically, they're the kind of recommendations we made. And thanks for your attention. And I'm going to be passing you on now to Daniel, who's going to be speaking about an even larger hotel.
Daniel can take over.
Yes.
We will
Hello.
continue with Daniel.
But I cannot start my video. Christian, can you help me? Yes. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Perfect. Thank you very much. My name is Daniel. I'm from Aruba. I'm very excited to be part of this forum. Let me share my screen for a moment. Yes. There you go. Can you see now my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, perfect.
Please go ahead, Daniel.
So I would like to step in our presentation. Is named Efficiency Starts with Building Data. A success history. This is the agenda that we have. What was the challenge that we have, the solution, and the results that we got out of that solution. What we are working now in the Caribbean, what is under development, and the lessons learned, and for sure, and then we will have a kind of conclusions. So the challenge, this is a hotel in Aruba with 449 rooms that in the year of 2016, they renewed 2 chiller plants. And one of the chillers plant was made also to make hot water to the hotel. So the main objective was to maximum energy efficiency. And the challenge was that after a year or a couple of months of operating the plant, they didn't see the energy savings. So even having brand new equipment, we step in and we decide to implement building automation, adding controllers with data logging and analytics, and also opening the gap for new mechanical optimization, meaning in piping and better performance in the mechanical side. So part of that solution is during the hot water generation, we identified that the chiller was working 24/7 doing hot water. We changed the sequence of operation and it creates hot water only when it's required, meaning at night, we achieve the maximum energy efficiency out of the chiller. Another point that we tackled was the transition between heating and cooling mode. This was impressive when we add a bypass valve in the mechanical plant, and we were able to reduce the timing of this transition from 90 or 120 minutes to only 10 or 12 minutes. And we can see here the step of the slope of this line. That was how quickly the chiller was able to go into the energy savings opportunity. Additional to that, we find out another chiller that we were able to improve the heat exchangers piping, and therefore we changed the power demand profile from the chiller. This profile was before, and this was the new profile after we implement those efficiency steps. What was the result? We got a dramatic drop in the energy profile, monthly energy profile from 2016, that was our baseline. This is the purple line. 2019 is the blue line, where we're at the peak of the demand, let's say, for gas in Aruba. And obviously 2020 with COVID is out of the calculations. But now we are back in 2022, where the energy economy recovery, and we are studying with him the ranges that we did. What is important to highlight is the outcome, the analytics beyond, or explain it on this project. We came for 8.8 megawatts. Yearly consumption, we step in 2018. The first year, when they changed the chiller plant, didn't perform properly, and we start to dramatically drop off the energy consumption. So 2020, when it's COVID, is a big impact, but it's not part of this. But basically 2022 shows us, and 21, when the economy started to recover, we are getting a better efficiency between 25 to 27 compared to our baseline. 2023, we have a forecast, and this is what we estimate in energy savings based on the occupancy of the hotel. This is another graphic that shows the guest nights rooms from where we were at the energy consumption per year and where we are now. So this dramatic drop in energy consumption is one of our biggest achievements. And this kind of projects validates what Loreto mentioned on her presentation. What is still for us ongoing is to identify when we have a very high occupancy and we have these dots out of the completely below our profiles, that is below 500,000 kilowatts per month. So these dots is what aim us to identify where we can get more energy savings. We are right now at the 24-25% energy savings, and we are now in the kilowatt hours per night. We are around 50.51. That those are the numbers that correlate with what Loreto was mentioning before. What we are working now and we have under development is a kind of IoT, Internet of Things platform. This is on beta process. We are developing a kind of interface for small business and small hotels, boutique hotels, where we can implement these sensors that they can be a cost benefit for the customer, and as well that they can monitor the energy usage. They can control the thermostats in these locations. We are developing now a pilot project in some fast food restaurants that they can grab this information and be used for their internal analysis. One of the most important is that we have energy submetering, where we can see when they have solar and how it is that the impact into the proper operation of the restaurant. They may shift loads to the time that should be better, or the usage of the solar energy instead of using the energy out of the grid. And also they can combine that with the business KPIs, so they can see the efficiency and energy wise with another KPIs like production, biomass, or another metrics. The energy meters, they validate the solar production and improve operations. And this is just the roadmap for us to tag all this big data and connect it to another technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and many other opportunities. This is for our internal use. We didn't open it yet to our customers, but we are working hard with our own team in the Caribbean to develop these kind of solutions, more accessible. So Clifton, I go to you, back to you.
Yes, thank you, Daniel. I have posed a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
Which, if okay, we will see on the next sheets, on the next slide.
Yes, I have here.
Based on your lessons learned in your research and assisting of these hotels, how controls helps to achieve substantial energy savings?
This is something very important, because the impact of the proper usage of the energy by the mechanical equipment, by the air conditioning is critical. As Loreto mentioned it, most of the hotels, they use 40 to 50% of the energy bill goes to the HVAC. And these controllers, they are the brain with the right sequence of operation that they can maximize the efficiency and the right operation. It will be better guest comfort and better energy usage. Most of the time, these projects cost around 1 to 5% of a big mechanical project, but sometimes they are a little bit neglected or not considered, you know, because they don't see any kind of a benefit out of it.
Mm-hmm. Actually, what you are saying is that when you make that kind of investment, you don't only need to look at the price actually of the equipment or what you buy, but more into the terms of long-term energy consumption.
Yes, this project starts as a master plan, and even some customers, they were a little bit afraid of implementing this because they see it a little bit complicated, but you are right, Clifton. That is a real fact.
Mhm. How does data analytics actually in these kind of sense help facilities or management to manage actually their energy consumption?
This helps for them to understand and evaluate better how the energy is used. You know, when we start this project, we identified the biggest energy eaters, and those are the pumps, motors, chillers. And those, when you attack those, we call it like the low hanging fruit, because you will get right away energy savings between 15 to 20% out of your energy bill. The major thing is that that is king. You know, if you can measure it, you can improve it. So that is a real fact.
Exactly. So data analytics, would you say, has a positive impact on sustainability, also corporate social responsibility initiatives, but also in terms of direct costs for any company?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Okay. Before I ask you the last question, question number 4, I would like our audience, if you have any questions, please make use of the Q&A button or box. So when we open the floor in a couple of minutes, that we have your question already to go. My last question to you, Daniel, is what are the challenges, roadblocks for proper implementation, as you might have been encountering some of those during your implementation in Aruba?
Yes, absolutely. I believe that the biggest challenge for this solution is the limited funds that they have, because most of the time the people don't spend or don't have the CapEx for this kind of projects. The other part is the staff that is in the hotels. They need to be knowledgeable about this and take ownership of the systems. We have been seeing some projects that they have like a Ferrari in the systems, but nobody operates and squeeze the most that they can for that, you know. Sometimes operations in the hotels, they are a little bit afraid of implement this, because let's say that data is like the new sheriff in town. You know, you can collect so much operational data that can expose some lack of maintenance, and that sometimes is kind of challenging to implement. I believe that the hotels should implement this as an strategic, having a champions team within the hotel, with the people that have the knowledge to do a deep analysis on these facts, and use properly the building automation on every hotel.
Okay. Thank you for sharing with us, Daniel.
Thank you very much, Clifton.
I think you still have 1 minute to conclude before we go over to the open floor. I see we have a couple of questions, so I would allow you to please conclude.
Yes, I will conclude with the last slides. Is the conclusions that we have after this project. The first one is if utilities in the Caribbean can create or to create a kind of framework to support the energy efficiency approach. Another point is, what is the social impact in the whole island, which is very efficient? Let's say that if there is 10 or 100 hotels in an island and everyone gets very efficient, what will happen to the energy costs? Is there a kind of a framework for new education to have a new generation that get used to this kind of knowledge, you know, software developers and programmers, for example? And the last item is to continue in the improvement for the staff within a hotel, you know, to these kind of topics in energy conservation and tied in with automation.
Yes.
So with that, I conclude my presentation. Thank you very much, Clifton.
Thank you very much, Daniel, and also our previous speakers, Loreto and also Rooney. We have a couple of questions from our audience. One from Gregory Jelly. How do hotels finance such systems? I think that question might be for Daniel or Loreto. How do hotels finance such systems?
There are varying ways of financing such systems. In fact, obviously, you know, if you can get the funding from the bank, well and good. You probably can't. But there is a new system which there are a lot of the suppliers are now doing, which is cooling as a service. And what happens is that they will install the equipment, and you will pay for the cold air by the cubic meter. It's very much like the old Xerox system, whereby back in the day, you know, the Xerox gave you a photocopy machine and you paid for the amount of copies you used. So it's something based on that. You can get, there are suppliers who will actually put in the equipment for you. And then they take care of the equipment, they repair it, they replace it, they maintain it, which is probably one of the greatest advantages, because maintenance is a massive problem throughout the region. You know, we find people are installing these large systems and they don't actually do any maintenance on them until they break down. So,
if you consider that finance is naturally most of the time an issue, especially in small island development states, is there any developments in terms of companies that offer build, own, operate, transfer with regard to energy plants and things like that?
Some of the islands, I mean, Barbados now, for example, we have an energy smart fund whereby hotels or businesses can go and they can get funding for energy saving equipment at really good rates, you know, way lower than the banks will offer. It is available, that kind of financing is available in some countries, but I think one of the things that is desperately needed in the region is a blended finance fund, which is available to hotels to implement energy efficiency and renewable at the same time.
Yes.
So that they can take advantage of the new technologies that are out there.
Correct. I have something to add to Loreto input, is that what we've seen normally in this kind of projects is that the biggest part of the investment goes to the mechanical equipment itself. But for the controls, they just use the standard or the minimum requirement to have it working. That's it. So that is one of the challenges. And another challenge that we try to implement is to execute these projects based in the energy savings. So the energy savings pay the projects, but it is a kind of difficult topic to discuss, you know, because it's like moving the investment or the energy bill allocation to another bill, let's say like that. So at the end, you will not see the benefit. You want to see the energy savings right away.
Yeah, that's
yes.
Clifton, I can add a little bit of macro perspective. Islands need to have foreign direct investment and also local investment. So that's a basic thing in small island nations. They need to attract foreign direct investments and local investments in the economy. And then especially in the island efficiency, then policymakers should create opportunities so that people can get a high return on investments. I think the hotels, they need to, the hotel sector, restaurant sector, they need to take into account that if the oil prices, etc., during the crisis, any crisis in the world, if the oil prices, fuel prices goes up, then their costs will increase. You see, so you have to invest into becoming more energy efficient. Otherwise, you will have a high energy bill as a country, and all your purchasing power will be eroded away. So that's the general part. Also, that's why also for climate change, of course, they want to double the energy efficiency by 2030. That's the general goal. So that's my contribution.
Thank you for all your contribution. We have another question from Alan Miller asking, are the speakers seeing any innovative technologies with the potential to further improve efficiency and reduce power demand? Any
I mean,
innovative
there are systems, you know, you have to bear in mind that the new builds, the new hotels coming on stream are all coming with all the new technologies. They're all coming in with their own solar systems, their own water systems. They have everything. They cannot afford not to do this. However, you have to look at the existing stock that we have. And the unfortunate side of it is that very few of these hotels can afford to do it. So we try to look to see what you can do, as Daniel says, the low-hanging fruit, like change out your air conditioning unit, change out your lighting, change out your pool pumps, those kind of things. But there are other technologies, like there are systems that you can install in your hotel, which I think Daniel did mention, where the hotel can actually monitor what's going on in each room. So, for example, if one of your guests passes by, the front desk on the way out, and the front desk person says, "Where are you off to today?" They're going on a tour. The front desk is capable then, or even the maintenance department, whatever, can look now to see, has that guest left everything on in their room? And they can actually turn it off from the front desk, or they can raise the air conditioning temperature, and then set it so that when they be half an hour before the guest comes back, it goes back to normal. There are technology, they're what we call back of house technology.
Yes.
In some cases, where you can control. I mean, there are systems. I have seen systems here in Barbados where the maintenance manager can tell you the exact temperature of the hot water that's going to a particular room. You know, so those kind of, I think again, what Daniel alluded to, you know, the Internet of Things is out there. You know, the equipment is now talking to one another.
Totally,
you know, so there are technologies, but it's a question of, in the case of small and medium-sized hotels, they may not necessarily be able to afford it. And this is where the likes of the energy service companies come in, who will do it, who will put it in, and they take the repayment from the savings.
Yes, I totally agree with Loreto. What based on our experience, I can tell you the PMS, the property management system from the hotel, they sometimes they are able to integrate with a smart thermostat. And these smart thermostats in the room, they have occupancy sensors that they know when nobody's in the room, and they go to a setback position. But those are expensive. The other point is, for example, for a hotel, if they have a rooftop unit or any AC unit that is just keeping the comfortable temperature, they say it is working, it is okay. But with the data that we compile, we can see if it's efficiency, if the pressures and temperature of the refrigerant that is on that compressor is okay and is within the gap. So we have experience where a compressor was running 100% all the time, the temperature was okay, so the gas was okay, we don't have any problem. But now, after our assessment, we were able to shoot down that compressor to 30, 40%, achieving the same temperature. So it's a matter of getting the insights with the data and then make the right decisions. Even sometimes we came to a customer and we say, you know what, you have to throw out your whole equipment because it's too old. I mean, it is already on the last lap. You need to replace the equipment.
Yeah, and they don't like to do that. You'll find a lot of hotels, they don't understand. They will tell you, you know, you will say to them, that washing machine you have there, it's really, it's taking all your current. And the hotelier will tell you, but I've had it for 25 years and it's never cost me a cent.
Yes.
Oh, it's costing you big time because the technology is too old. But there is an attitude that, well, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Why should I throw it out? You know, and that is a problem, you know.
Yes.
Considering the amount of time left, I would like to put the following question from Richard Sabro forward, and I think this is for Daniel. What technology has been used to give the 15 to 20% improvement in energy utilization? Was that solar, wind, or just improve efficiency of motors?
No, just changing the sequence of operation in the equipment. We compile the data that we are normally using. They have the same hot water. The chillers are working the same as they have it before. The only thing that we did is to add in controllers, compile all this data, and, you know, going with a kind of magnifier glass and see every spot where we can save energy. Obviously, the mechanical contractor gives us a huge insight, about heat exchanger, the right values in flow, temperature that you need to achieve this energy savings. And that is the important part. We are just scratching now the surface. We are now in a second phase of that project to automate every air handling unit. We found every air handling units without actuators, for example, that they are just open 24/7. So
But you don't always need technology
no,
to make savings. I mean, to get 10, 15, 20% savings, in
yes,
some cases, it's strictly, it could be just conservation.
yes,
And,
Yes.
as I showed, like things like underutilized fridges, air conditioning units running all day when they could be switched off, lights left on in the wrong places, heat, swimming pool pumps that could be turned off and the pool is not being used.
yeah,
You can have all sorts of, you need to actually go around the property and have a look to see where you
yes,
can make savings. And it's best to do the conservation first and then use what you've saved from the conservation to start buying energy efficient equipment. And
Clifton,
that's the way
Yes.
it should start.
Clifton,
have
I see we have a lot of chat, and I just wanted to point to that form that we have that to join the discussion, keep the discussion going also after the workshop, if that's possible. Yes.
Yeah, I agree with
out-
Loreto. Something that we identify in another hotel, sometimes we see that they do some operations like laundry or other in back of the house tasks at the peak time of the hotel load. So that is
Yes.
critical because some utilities, they charge you by the peak, not by your
Yes.
average. So
Yes.
that is something else that you can identify with data, hey, chief this time, put it at night or put it in the lowest valley hours of your energy consumption.
Okay. I would like to also put the following question from Jacob Earthworth forward. He says, what are the average return on investments for the projects and what are the time of duration of investment until an investment would expect a return? I think that question is directed to Loreto. What are the average return?
Very hard. It's very, very hard to answer that question because it depends very heavily on what your kilowatt hour costs, right? In the case of Barbados, for example, like if you're talking about, or any of the islands where your energy cost is up around 40 cents a kilowatt hour, your rate of return is going to be way, way higher. And it could be, 200, 250%, as opposed to a country like Trinidad, where your energy costs are about 6 cents, or Dominican Republic, where you have some of the private energy companies, which are maybe around 7 cents a kilowatt hour. So the rate of return is going to be way, way lower. And it's going to take a lot longer than it will in an island with a much higher kilowatt hour cost. So, but hotels like to see they like to see the savings made, or they like to see their payback period for less than 4 years. And that is what we aim to do in every case. Look to see, combine the recommendations so that if, for example, if one of your recommendations was to install a PV system, which might have a payback period of 7 years, combine that with an investment in energy efficiency lighting, which would be less than a year. Also combine it with perhaps changing out your air conditioning units, which would, again, might have a 2.5 year payback period. So those combined will give you a payback period of less than, say, 4 years.
Yes, clear. I would like to put a last question forward. This is for Rooney from Sharon Isenia. What are the key takeaways that you get out of your research in building your economic energy model? Rooney.
Yes, I think basically the first thing is that Caribbean small island nations, also small island nations in the world, you need to focus on data. You need to focus on data, and you need to know what data to look for. Because in the Caribbean, often they say, we don't have data, we don't have data. Now, with the macroeconomic model and investment model, I've seen that there are only 54 variables that you need to focus on. You see, so after the workshop, we can also give you those variables. So there is data, focus on the key data. The second part, I try to make the energy balance, etc., and I looked at Malta and Cyprus, and in the European Union, Malta and Cyprus, small island nations, Iceland, they have their energy balance. So for all island nations watching this, I would say invest in creating that energy balance, that system. Otherwise, we are just talking about things and we don't have the data. We could, for instance, a recommendation, try to connect to Malta, Cyprus, etc., and then see if we can have South-South cooperation where they teach us, they give us capacity training on how to build those things. Also seek development funds from the European Union or from the World Bank, etc., to build in capacity so that we can get those energy balances. You see, so I would say focus on the data, and then on the macro data, focus on key variables and invest in data.
Yes, thank you, Rooney. I would like to congratulate and also say thank you to all of speakers for sharing some very interesting information, data, and content with us.
Clifton, I would just say I dropped something. Sorry, I dropped a link in the chat, and that is the link to the form.
Maybe exactly, indeed. Yes. Maybe you can also show it, share your screen, so that people can take a picture and go to the link. Before, while you are doing that, I want to thank all the participants, and I will pass the floor back to Christian from Island Finance Forum 2023.
Thank you.
You see the link, right?
Yeah, could you share it on a full so people can shoot the QR code on?
Yes, we see it. I put it on the screen.
All right, fantastic. So let me just quickly, okay, there we go. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this session. I want to thank you, Clifton, for moderating this session, and to our wonderful speakers, Rooney, Loreto, and Daniel. Your contributions were amazing, and it's great to see the work that you are doing here in the Caribbean region that can also be applied in other islands around the globe. So thank you so much for your contributions. And coming up next, we have another session, Digital Innovation and FinTech for Climate Action. This session is coming up at 4 p.m. New York, 9 p.m. London, and 6 a.m. Sydney for the people in the Asia Pacific region. And I also want to inform you that we will be having an in-person conference on June 22nd and 23rd in the island of Madeira, Portugal, the Blue Economy Investment Forum. We will be gathering experts to explore the potential of sustainable ocean-based industries to drive economic growth while preserving the health of our planet. So please check out the information that you will see in the chat, and you can also visit our website, islandinnovation.co, and you will find everything there regarding this Blue Economy Investment Forum. I hope to see you there in Madeira. And please let us know your opinion by using the IFF 2023 hashtag on your social media posts, and please answer our survey that is being shared in the chat. Thank you so much, and see you in a couple of hours for the next session.